It's time to take your business to the next level, the boss level. These are the premier business owner strategies and successes being utilized by the industry's top talent today. Rock your business like a boss, a VO boss. Now let's welcome your host, Ann Ganguzza.
Hey everyone, welcome to the VO Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Ann Ganguzza, along with the most amazing Miss Kesha Monk.
Hola, senorita. How are you?
Announcer extraordinaire, I say.
Oh,
Kesha,
hey.
wow. So something historic just happened not so long ago, and I want to congratulate you for playing a role in this most amazing production of Dreamgirls on Clubhouse, which was just amazing over the weekend. And you were the announcer, and I was so happy for you. So happy for everybody on that platform. So much talent going on, and so much, just people of color, represented, and did just an amazing job.
Of course.
And so I was just really, truly amazed, and I'm so happy for you. And I thought maybe we should talk about, casting and inclusivity, because that has been a big topic, obviously, these days in the forums, and in voiceover and in general, right? The whole Black Lives Matter movement. And I am going to try to not insert foot in mouth at any point, and I want to be very respectful and just say to you before we begin, because I'd like to ask you some questions. I've tried to really work hard at educating myself on the Black Lives Matter movement and really trying to be an ally. And I may put my foot in my mouth, and I will. I'm scared.
I don't know why.
But I've got you, and I feel better about that, because
and you don't need to be afraid. We need to talk. I want to have an honest conversation with you. So let's let our hair down and let's talk.
Let's talk first of all about how do you feel about the casting process in voiceover? Obviously, there's been a lot of talk about it not being fair, not representing, you're not getting the opportunities. Please expand on that.
Well, here's the thing. I will say, before I talk about how things were pre-Black Lives Matter, it just wasn't fair. It's just not fair. And I'll tell you why. I'll expand on that. But I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people in color have had difficulty with being cast fairly. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's two-sided, I would say, because, again, when we receive auditions, and I'm sure you've received many, generally speaking, I think it's safe to say that, most, I would say 85% maybe, if that's a fair assessment or percentage, will not necessarily, they'll ask for a modern American sounding voice. Let's just keep it simple. And a lot of casting directors will just assume that is a white person. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of times I can only speak for myself. I wasn't necessarily included in that batch. Okay, I would only be called on, and this is, by the way, you can rewind and we can talk about why we fired our agent. Go ahead and look that podcast up. Mm-hmm. I was only being called on when they called for an African American voice. I don't really know what an African American, I do know what an African American voice sounds like. Because we do have certain nuances and certain rhythms and so forth and so on. But again, how many times would those opportunities come up? Not a whole lot. They would only call on me when it called for a Black woman voice. And a lot of times, and I will tell you, it was very, very frustrating, because when I finally did get hired or did get cast, a lot of times casting directors have their own definition of what a Black voice should sound like. And so I've been called upon and been accused of not being Black enough. Can you imagine the frustration?
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? Especially once you are hired, you figure once you audition and you get a job, you figured that you're being hired because you did something right in that audition. And so a lot of times I would love to be me authentically, I'm saying taking into consideration the specs. But it has not been a fair playing field.
Well, okay, but what's interesting is that for the years that I've been in this industry, I can't on the fingers on my hand, I cannot count the number of times that I've actually seen like the casting for, let's say, African American. I mean, the auditions come in and the opportunities come in, but I've never seen up until maybe these last 2 years, right, any specs at all, right? And so that I assume was assumed to be a white person and perhaps not, a person of color.
White is, and again, and I mean this, I don't want you to take offense, but bottom line is white has been the default, not only in voiceover, with almost every facet of life.
And I honestly did not even understand the extent of it until I really started to kind of look into it and study it. Now, I've seen a couple of forums discussing like percentages of opportunities like you just mentioned. And there was actually a test, right? And somebody was just trying to find out what percentage of auditions do they get and opportunities do they get. And it was like 20%. And that's these days. So I'm hoping that, that changes and that everybody, you can get opportunities now to come to the table like it always should have been.
I just think that now that people are willing to talk about this, I think that, and again, I can't speak for the entire industry, but I have personally noticed that the playing field, well, I don't ever think that it'll be even, to be completely honest with you, but I am sensing that a lot of casting directors and a lot of agencies are becoming a little bit more sensitive. And it's not even always about the casting directors, and it could be the clients.
Exactly. I was going to say the clients too, right? Their mentality has to change as well, right?
Well, absolutely.
In terms of what opportunities they want to give, who they're advertising for, and who they want to speak to, and what talent is going to represent that.
Absolutely. And, honestly, I think that it's fair to say, and I feel very, very comfortable in saying that all Black people have ever wanted is a fair chance at a fair shot. And in the industry, unfortunately, it has not been that way for a majority of my career anyway. We are simply not given the same opportunity as our Caucasian industry peers, so to speak.
And would you say that it's even, and I don't even know, is it even gender specific? Has there been more opportunities for males versus females and then add in people of color? Or
I doubt it.
Yeah, that's...
Now, I haven't done any official research or anything like that, but I really do feel comfortable in saying, because again, I think voiceover, the industry as a whole, it's a very competitive, big playing field, but for the most part, for what I have seen, I've seen nothing but love amongst, our industry peers. And we talk. We do have these discussions, especially, online. We've done them offline as well. But this is a frustration that both male and female have dealt with.
Yeah.
Since forever.
So I'd like to come back to, let's talk about, there's a lot of talk about accents, and there's Black accent, there's accents, and then there's people who will obviously give that argument, well, if I'm not Irish, should I, never audition for an Irish part? So explain your thoughts on that.
Well, here's the thing. Is Black an accent or is it a race? Is it an accent? I have all kinds of Black friends. And again, there are certain rhythms and nuances. But then I have some friends. And again, the reason why I think that I had so much success in radio and different formats is because you really couldn't tell what color I was. You really couldn't.
Yeah.
But again, in all fairness, there are, certain casting calls for a different, calls for a very specific, sometimes they do want a very specific sound. And so here's my problem, Ann. If the opportunities are already limited, why would anybody white audition for something that is specifically calling for an African American person?
I agree.
That is so wrong. And let me calm down. Because again, how did we begin this conversation? It's bad enough that the opportunities are limited. And there are some people, and I know you're familiar with some of them, who are masquerading themselves as African American talent when they are not. And that is wrong as rain. I will continue to say it until the day I die. I am so upset and really exhausted of people online saying that, well, it's just acting. Well, perhaps. But again, if we're already not being afforded the opportunity as the rest of the voiceover industry, then why in the world would you masquerade yourself as an African American talent when you are not? Do you see the wrongness in that?
Oh, I do.
Or am I just by myself?
No, you are not by yourself. You are not by yourself. And I do believe that I think right now, if this is the time, right, that finally that you're getting opportunities, then I have always been the type of person, I cash in on opportunities and I say, just go. And I agree. I mean, I myself, and again, this isn't really about me at all, but I've come to the realization that there's a lot of education that I didn't have. And I was very, I'm going to say, obviously privileged. I can say I was very white privileged, but I was also very naive to a lot of things that were happening, and I'm sad about that because now that I'm not so naive anymore.
What were you naive to?
Gosh,
talk to me, baby.
I was naive actually. Just even going through school. I mean, there's certain parts of history that I never even realized that had happened, and that just in general in the whole Black Lives Matter movement, where I was like, oh my gosh, we've just been jerks. I have a stronger word for that. All right, we've been assholes. And so I don't even know how to say this, but I'm mortified. I'm mortified, and I didn't even realize it because I just wasn't made aware of history as it progressed, and I just feel like wow. And I think that if there is so much talk and so much discussion about it now, and the whole movement, just it's intense, the amount of emotion that came with that. And
so here's what I want to say, not to cut you off, but I'm an old lady and I will forget. And I get it. I get it. To be honest with you, a lot of Black people have even been not afforded the opportunity to learn about our own culture because it's not even in our school systems.
It wasn't taught. It was not taught, and it was
purposely omitted.
And for that, I am mortified. I'm like, wow, had I realized that, my whole mentality, I think, growing up even, which not that I ever thought that I had any one way of thinking, but I was very privileged not even realizing it. And I think that had I known, right, had I been educated differently, I would have thought differently too.
So I get it. I understand. And, I don't necessarily blame, an entire race for not being educated on the disadvantages of, and especially if you didn't grow up around Black people, or if you had no experience around Black people, you just don't know. But here we are in year 2020, 2021.
Now
and you don't need, to me, again, I'm going to try to say this as tactfully as I can. You don't need a book, an encyclopedia, when you are literally watching people get snuffed out and murdered on the street on your computer or on your cell phone. It's just, at this point, it's just common sense. And it's really disturbing to me, especially with, my friends in the voiceover industry who still have a blind eye. They still wanted to turn on that blind eye. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's still,
it's acting.
It's still confused, still like, and to be honest with you, I almost refuse to believe that they don't get it. At this point, I think that, because I've seen the discussions even up until yesterday, still talking about, it's just acting. I don't understand why people, no, it's a lot bigger than that. It's a lot deeper than that. And if people don't understand it, I just don't think they want to. It's like a refusal to, what can you accept if you have a closed mind? And all we actually have ever wanted is just for folks to listen. Just shut up and listen. And you could learn a whole lot if you just shut up and listen. And that's just the bottom line. Hey, that's just how I feel.
No, I chuckle because it's exactly, it is that simple. And it turned out to be that simple for me. And I'm certainly not the most educated person in the world about the topic, because again, like for me, I'm just trying to do my best in being a good ally.
If you're willing to listen, you can learn a whole lot, Ann.
Yeah. And I agree wholeheartedly with that. And that's really all I did. And I talked. I talked to people. I sought out people to talk to, and just listened. And I heard a lot. You know what? More than anger, I heard so much hurt, and that made my heart hurt because it all stemmed from that. And for me, I guess I'm a little bit of an empath. So that when it touched my heart like that, I was like, wow, I just really feel, I just feel like I need to listen. It
reaches beyond voiceover. A lot of, for me particularly, this disenfranchisement, if you want to call it, or, the lack of like, this is what I've been dealing with ever since I was a baby. Like, I literally remember auditioning for Sesame Street when I was 4 years old, and I could read extremely well, and I probably could talk because I'm a talker, you know what I mean? I remember the casting agent at Sesame Street telling my mother that I was nothing special. I was reading fluently at the age of 4, and my mother fought for me. My mother put me in a gifted and a talented program. All my life I've been in gifted and talented programs. But my mother had to fight. My mother had to fight for me. And I really, really, that's why I love her and I respect her so much. Just to be given the same opportunity as a white child. It's a fight. It's a frustration. And this is what we deal with. And so going back to the voiceover thing, and you can only imagine, we're in this voiceover thing, and I'm pretty good at what I do. I don't know it all. I'm certainly not the best. But, all I've ever asked for is just opportunity. If you just give me a chance. That's all.
So Kesha, what can we do? I mean, listen, absolutely, right? Outside of listen, what can we do to help fix this or help, just progress forward?
Well, and I say this I'm just putting it in the atmosphere, and I really want you to go to bed tonight and think about this. You have to hold your colleagues accountable. We have got to, and when I mean we, I mean y'all, have really tried. You have to do all you can to try to change the mentality and the landscape and the environment and just the overall air by sharing in our frustrations with casting agents. And I know that a lot of people are not going to do that. You know what I'm saying? Because it's uncomfortable. It's very, very testy, but it will never, ever change with us, just, holding up signs and marching up and down the street. We need allies. We need our colleagues to be vocal to casting directors, to clients, to agencies.
Clients are huge too. I mean, I feel like this is not just a voiceover industry. Obviously, it's not just a voiceover industry specific casting thing. It's about clients and consumers out there who want to, that are demanding, right? They're demanding whatever it is in voiceover that they need for advertising. That's, their thoughts about advertising and who needs to be the representative voice of it. That's just so much more global. It's interesting because, I feel like casting directors, yes, we can say to them, if something comes in, obviously that is not, the specs are, African-American or person of color, obviously, like, don't audition if that's not your race. But also, talking to them, but it just goes beyond that to the client and to the world, really, I think, to change their perception.
You know what I love about my new client? I mean, my new agent. I am so in love with my agent because they just don't send me black stuff.
Mm-hmm.
They understand. Yeah, they understand. And, I just don't want to be given opportunity just for the sake. I want them to be able to tap into my ability. And if they see something that comes across their desk, to say, damn it, Kesha would be excellent for this. You know what I mean? And again, I can do black too. But I am very, very versatile. I'm very versatile. And I just love that about them. And I wish that for everybody, you know what I mean, with regards to having an agent that will exploit your talent for what it is, And so, and I just wish, someone being as influential as you are and being in your position, having this very successful podcast. Well, let me back up. Thank you for your willingness to talk about this because a lot of people don't want to talk about it. And that's a problem within itself. So continue to use your position to influence for the better. That's all I ask. And when you see something wrong, I'm not necessarily saying stand on a stage, but you've got to be more vocal about the wrongness that's going on out here in this industry.
I think so, yeah.
And I see it every day.
Because simply not doing anything also is complicit.
That fuels the fire.
Exactly.
Your silence.
It doesn't help. Silence doesn't help.
In fact, it helps me because your silence means that you're complicit, and it makes me understand who you really are. You know what I mean? Silence is very loud.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes to inequality in the voiceover industry.
And I have to say to you, Kesha, thank you for talking to me, and being so generous. And I think it's an important discussion to have. I think we could probably have, 5,000 podcasts about it.
For sure.
For sure. Yeah. But I certainly appreciate your input, and I love you dearly. And thank you so much. Bosses, please do the right thing. And, Let's all be allies. That's what I say. You guys have an amazing week. I'm going to give a shout out to our sponsor, IPDTL, that allows me to connect with my Kesha and network and put this podcast out every week. We love you guys, and we'll see you next week. Thanks so much. Bye. Bye.
Join us next week for another edition of VO Boss with your host, Ann Ganguzza. And take your business to the next level. Sign up for our mailing list at voboss.com and receive exclusive content, industry revolutionizing tips and strategies, and new ways to rock your business like a boss. Redistribution with permission, coast-to-coast connectivity via IPDTL.